Hello there, Qckslvrslash here, and today I have a video courtesy of Falter driving the Tier 8 Japanese destroyer, the Akizuki. And this thing is an absolute machine gun of a boat. It's the top of the gunboat line, so to say, and it's got 4 of these twin-barreled turrets, but it still has some very effective torpedoes. And I'd say to anyone who's kind of wondering what line maybe they want to go up, both of the Japanese trees are very good. The focus on this branch is just slightly more towards the guns, whereas the other branch it's slightly more towards being all-purpose. And I think Falter is going to do a great job of demonstrating that this battle. The Akizuki specifically, however, I think is going to massively benefit from the new heap skill when it comes to the game at the next patch, because it just doesn't quite have enough penetration to effectively do anything to battleships, unless you're lighting fires. But to give up a tiny bit of that fire chance for the increased penetration, it puts you into the range where now you're going to consistently do damage with each volley. But you're giving up the fire chances, so that's going to be for individuals to decide. Now, you'll see Falter here put some peds into the water at the Missouri, instantly hits his torpedo reload, because only having 4 tubes, that's really a skill you need. And you can see there it effectively allows you to double the number of torpedoes you have. So the Missouri drives into smoke, so there's going to be no way of knowing if those torpedoes hit or not. So Falter opens up on this grosser curve first, and you can see each volley, which are hitting the superstructure, doing about 500 damage, which is a more than respectable number, and you can see the damage slowly ticking up. But in this case, it's going to be the torpedoes that really make the first hit, and there it is. Detonation on that enemy Missouri, who you can see in chat is just like, and that guy, you know, you gotta run those flags. Or at very minimum the module that decreases the chance of detonation if you don't have the flags. So 1 torpedo in, and already 83,000 damage on the board. And that's how you know a good game's gonna happen. The team has managed to capture A and almost have C. And they've kind of got the enemy team, it almost looks like hemmed into this kind of area here. And I kind of hate playing in games like this where this happens, especially if I was on this enemy team, because you know you need to get a cap. There's just no other option, and yet they haven't pushed into any of the 3 caps. They all kind of just sat back, and they're not going to have a lot of luck. There's a destroyer up here that'll try to just torp anyone who goes in, and they've got the entire team of Falter chasing around astern of them, you know, picking the slow guy off one at a time. So I think Falter here is going to do a smart thing, trying to get right into that kind of torpedo range and remain a little stealthy. And another big feature to the Akizuki is that stealth fire. You can see each volley detectability goes up to 8.9, and nothing's that close. Well, now there is. And I gotta say, Falter, you've done a great job of grounding yourself here, and it seemed like it took you a few to realize it. But you're in a good enough position that you're safe, and now you've got a low yank side on. And you will notice that Falter is using the AP even against destroyers, and I think it just comes down to that penetration. Not having driven the ship enough, I can't really say one way or the other, but with it side on like that, the AP more than likely offers a great chance at some serious damage. But with the low yang now angled, it's easy to switch to HE, and look at the rate of fire. Less than 3 seconds. Falter's only got their rear turrets. You know, they're driving straight away. They were only using their rear turrets there, and they're still outgunning that Loyang. And the Loyang gives their side again, so it's back to AP, and just look at those shell hits. Like 1,000, 2,000 damage a volley. You know, with a 3-second reload, it is not going to take you long to evaporate an enemy DD. And I have to say, watching this video, I definitely want this ship more. You know, I've wanted it a lot because the times I've come against it in-game, it's been a very effective opponent. But seeing someone actually drive it, the way the guns work, the way the torpedo works, it definitely is intriguing. And having that reload ability and still having smoke is huge. So reasonably, that Bismarck probably just burnt their damage control cooldown, which means if J-Falter can get some torpedoes into him here, there's definitely a chance at some serious flooding damage. And unfortunately, you know, the only thing spotting him was that other DD, and he drove into the smoke. And this is one of those situations where you really want to play a team game. If this gearing, rather than sitting there and smoking, chose to just drive out into the open and spot, J-Falter could sit here and absolutely blast away at the Bismarck. Instead, they both get caught inside this smoke screen by the Bismarck's hydroacoustic surge. And there's the main batteries. And it's one of those things that, personally, I would have loved to have seen the gearing not pop their smoke, to have just driven out into the open, done some spotting. They had the range to remain undetected, and it would have played out better. But J-Falter's in a bit of a tough spot here. They've got to just get their speed on an open range, and the speed boost came back up and right away pops it. Because you have to get outside like 5.5k detectability that Bismarck has. And that's one of those things in a DD that you do have to be very cautious about, because if you get caught inside a hydroacoustic surge, you're in for a long bit of trouble. Radar isn't actually that bad, because the best it's going to do is 30 seconds, which, granted, if a team is standing by for that radar, they can evaporate you in 30 seconds. But in my experience, if you're moving, you're probably going to survive through it. But the number of times I've seen things caught inside a hydroacoustic surge, like at 4k or 3.5k, you just don't have the speed to get to range, and you end up suffering. That said though, J-Falter did a great job of just running. When that situation happens, that's kind of what you have to do. You just drive away as quick as possible and just try to avoid. And now they're out to, you know, once again, kind of 6k. They pop their smoke and start going to town on this Bismarck. And this time, fortunately, the Bismarck is going to remain spotted, whether it be from this cruiser down here or the gearing, not sure. But you can see the issue at hand with these HE shells right now. Absolutely peppering the superstructure, no damage. So unless J-Falter gets a fire here, they're not going to be doing any damage to this Bismarck. And that's why I think this ship is really going to benefit from the heat ability, because it's just going to put you into a range where now your volleys can do actual damage rather than relying on RNG and that fire chance. But you can see now that the Bismarck's closed in and is a little flatter on, they've switched over to AP and getting some reasonable results, or they were. And this is definitely a tricky place to be. Doing a great job using that edge of the smoke screen and where the Bismarck is to remain undetected. You can see the Bismarck's guns hunting in the smoke, trying to get to that 2-kilometer hard detection range and just inside of it. And it just hasn't happened yet. But the second they're through this smoke, it's going to be game on. And there it is. Volley goes out, and a little underwhelming shot from the Bismarck. And all that means to me is this Bismarck's probably dead. J-Falter's got their, well, had their torpedoes back. Unfortunately, damage to them. Reset the timer. But they pick up the kill anyways, and they're up to 100,000 damage. And things are going well for their team. That Qckslvrslash is almost dead. I mean, still has 10,000 hit points there, but he's getting peppered down. And the other one is, well, 60% health. They've got 2 caps, they've got a good lead, and overall things are just going well. The one thing that kind of stinks is J-Falter and this Gearing have both gotten chased off kind of the edge of the map by that Bismarck, and that's one of those things those German battleships have the ability to do destroyers. The hydroacoustic surge just means if they choose to, they can drive straight at a DD and just try to force them out of a smoke or into a position where they're spotted. But now it's really just about focusing these 2 enemy ships down. You can see J-Falter's already slowing up, their smoke's almost ready. And that Qckslvrslash is going to be a good target. Once again, using AP and at least getting damage. And that's one of the things that I don't look forward to in this ship. With other DDs, you just use HE, and you're going to get damage and you're going to get fires. Right now in the Akizuki, you kind of have to make a choice. Do you want to do consistent damage with the shells or chances at fires? But with a rate of fire like this, the consistent damage actually starts to add up really quickly. Already stacked on about 10,000 damage to that Qckslvrslash. The torpedoes are ready again, but they're not really going to be needed. The guy's driving away, just ate one of the Gearing's torpedoes. And as you can see, J-Falter has switched to HE, really just hoping for that fire, because no damage. Now that's just something I'm pointing out a lot, because you definitely need to keep it in mind with this ship when you're driving it. And there's a fire, and that one should stick, because the torpedo hit from the Gearing more than likely forced a flooding and a damage control. But look at those target hits on the right. 43 non-penetrations. And that kind of stings. But damage is ticking up. That Qckslvrslash is going to be burning for a while. And things are looking really good for J-Falter's team. So I'm just going to jump ahead because they're playing a chase game right now. So, as you can see, B has now been capped by that enemy Zao, and J-Falter was closing, I believe hoping to kind of detect them and get some torpedoes off, but the Zao is heading behind an island. So you're going to get a few free shots in here, using that stealth fire, stacking on some damage. But now, they're in a tough situation. 2 DDs against a cruiser and a battleship, and now they're down a cap with about 4 minutes left, which is more than enough time for the enemies here to stack up the points and make up this difference. Or at least I think it is. I haven't exactly done my math in my head, but you can see the Zao is heading for Charlie as well. So you know it's going to be a close one. Basically all I'm trying to say is J-Falter and Quiet Man or Hitman just don't have the option to sit back and wait for a battle to end based on the point lead. Now, if that Qckslvrslash leaves A, they can definitely just jump in there to make sure they still have a point. But I really do feel what is going to end up needing to happen here is Falter's going to have to get into B. It's no longer contested. The Zhao is definitely an A. The Kurfürst is spotted. So you just get in the cap and take it. And you can see in chat that's what the team's asking for, and Qckslvrslash's already turned in to do just that. And the Garyon's going to be able to get A. So I think that's a bit of a misplay by that Grosser Kurfürst. They had the opportunity to force a point situation, and he drove through, and all he had to do was stay somewhere in that A cap, and they would have wound up ahead on caps. But now everything is trading hands, and this game's basically going to tick down to the end. So all told, definitely a bit of a game where it jumped out to a quick start and then started to drag on in his team as his team died. But Qckslvrslash did a great job, 404,000 credits, 164,000 damage, only 2 torpedoes in, but 303 shells and the 2 kills. And it was enough to put him on the top of the team with 2879 experience, being a tier 8 ship in a tier 10 game. And along with that gearing, they saved the day. That game would have turned out very differently if they had not worked together. And end of the day means walking home with 247,000 credits, 14,000 experience, and a good chunk of XP for a captain. And watching this video, I just want to get into this ship now. You know, it looked like a fun game. The rate of fire of those guns is great, even if the performance of some of the shell types is a little underwhelming for the time being. But that's something you can work around, and Qckslvrslash showed just how to do that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, consider giving a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.